Hi, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO, co-founder of DLA Ignite. I've got with me today Kevin Finke, and we're going to be talking about the importance of belonging. Why, as leaders, we need to make sure that people belong, and why, as individual contributors, we need to feel that we belong. But Kevin's going to explain that to us and get into the detail of it because this isn't necessarily about Kevin's journey, but he has a story about belonging, which I think is so important. Kevin, where can people find you?
Where can they find me? They could find me on LinkedIn on my personal page, just Kevin Finke. Really easy to find me. I'm the only one that uses that as all those words together. You could also find me at my design consultancy website. You're able to contact me there and even schedule time with me there. And experiencewillow.com. Experience Willow is the name of the company I founded 12 years ago.
So, Kevin, tell us your story because it's important in terms of the understanding of belonging and the fact that your the fact that you empathize and the way that you understand the need for belonging.
Yeah. Belonging. First of all, our work is our intellectual property at the company. We call it the belonging journey. We believe that all human beings are on a journey to belong, and we don't belong to just one group. We belong to lots of different groups of people that have organized themselves together. And I have been personally someone who struggled with belonging almost my entire life. I grew up in the rural Midwest in the United States. And in part of that experience, there weren't many people that looked differently than I looked. And there were definitely not a lot of people who felt what I felt on the inside, which was very different than most people there. And so although I was popular, although I was valedictorian of my class and captain of sports teams and lots of other things, and I was part of social groups, I just never felt like I fit in. And it's been with me from my very beginning. And I got into I went to the University of Illinois, where I also started to find myself. It's where I started to really explore a very important part of my what I call invisible diversity, my LGBTQ-ness. I'm a really proud member of the community. My husband and I have been together this September 30 years. So we've been
30 years.
yeah, and the last 5 we've been working together.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
Because it's having long-term gay marriages, and that is that's amazing.
yeah, well, in our country, federally, we couldn't do it until about 8 years ago. So a majority of that, obviously and we're still in a time in this country where people are trying to figure it out. I think they understand maybe the L, the G, the B perplexes them. The T is under a lot of debate,
Yes,
and
it is in our
yeah,
country. The
right.
T is.
And then there's the Q. And I identify as a Q as well. Most people would say Q stands for queer. It also stands sometimes for questioning. So it's someone who and I love that's what I love about our community is that we are for people who can't find belonging. Many times they're kicked out of their homes, out of their families. They're shunned out of their churches and things of that sort. And we embrace them. We just keep adding letters because we're like, please come be part of us. We're all trying to figure it out together. But when I started my company 12 years ago, I had 20 years in marketing and branding, and I have always called on really large companies, global multinational companies. So I've called on Coca-Cola, I've called on Unilever, on Kraft Foods, which is now part of Heinz, I believe, Heinz Kraft. I've called on big QSR chains, quick service restaurants, lots of retail in my background. So I've called on really, really big brands. And I did that as a marketing capacity. But when I started my company, I thought I was going to do exactly what I had done when I was working on the agency side. I was going to start this kind of special event experience company that we would develop experiences, and we do it like I had been doing it for 20 years for those big brands. And for the first 2 years we did we got someone contacted me who had been in my past in my network and said, Kevin, I loved working with you. Would you please come out of quote unquote retirement? Because I had been taking some time off. And would you come and I'm part of the Fox network now, and I'm launching a new Spanish language channel, a network, and I need help, bringing that brand to life. And so he asked me to help him, and it got my company started. But 2 years in, I met a chief people officer or a chief HR officer.
Yep.
She also had responsibility in this company for marketing. So I was doing some marketing work, but just because we would cross paths, we started talking. And the more and more she heard of my story, and the more and more I told her about what I was passionate about, she said, "Kevin, you're in the wrong field. You're actually an HR guy.
Yeah.
You're in human resources. You're learning and development, your culture, your employee experience, your employee engagement. You talk about brands as people and humans, and how important it is at companies for the people at those companies to find a sense of belonging there, because they literally bring the brand to life every day as they work." And so she taunted me to like take on a project with her, and I did it. And now 100% of our revenue is focused. I call us now a human-centered design firm. We practice design.
Human-centric design firm. Yeah.
Yeah, which is very popular in the technology, industry sector has really made design thinking and human-centered design much more popular. It's used now for so many different things, but human-centered design is simply a problem-solving process. And the problems we're solving every day with my clients are cultural problems, leadership problems, employee experience issues. We're trying to help them get the best out of their people. We believe when you belong, when you
Yeah.
feel a sense of belonging, right? Emotion. This is a human emotional need to belong. It's the middle part of Maslow's hierarchy, our psychological needs. And the first level is love and belonging. So a lot of times, as a kid who didn't feel as much love as he wanted and didn't feel a sense of belonging, I do believe the work I'm doing is about bringing love and belonging into the workplace to make it okay to talk about these things. Even they're so soft, but leaders are starting to understand the importance that a lot of our hard skills are being taken by automation and other types of technology and softwares and things like that. And what's coming down is really truly soft skills, like the things that truly make us human: creativity, analytics, the ability to tell narrative and story. Like some of these things are so important to the success of companies. And I believe the way you unleash that really soft stuff is through soft things like belonging and love, and bringing those into your workplace. Yeah.
You talked just before we came up, we went live, about how for you diversity was invisible.
Yes.
And we've all been in meetings where there is somebody that is overpowering, or someone is in a position because so for in my company, I don't go to certain meetings because otherwise the answer is deemed as being my answer. And everybody, and even though I'm sitting there going, please come up with the answer, it's like because I'm the CEO, I'm the headmaster.
Yeah.
And therefore there's a natural, well, we need to do what Tim says. And which is what, for me, it's about bringing everybody along. I'm rambling on a bit now, but
No.
So how is it that we get this as leaders, and and as individual contributors, do we get to the point where we feel that we belong?
Yeah. Well, we've done enough work around this. I mean, since that chief people officer, we still continue to work with her. She's at a different company, and she's just a wonderful coach and mentor to me, and she's taught me so much so quickly. But I also, at the same level, look at what she does differently than she does because of who I am, right? And where I come from and what my training is in. And so we've studied employee engagement. We've studied what drives employee satisfaction. We know so many things. And normally it's two things. It's the behaviors of the people above them, and the people alongside them that are, having a work experience with them every day. Behaviors are really important. And the systems and practices, the rituals, the ceremonies, things that every culture has, not just work cultures, every culture has these things. Those things, like, our work always centers around, are we changing behaviors? Are we changing systems and practices? Or are we changing both, right? Like transforming, right? So that they invite people to have more belonging. If you go and you just study belonging from a needs perspective, belonging is in this middle, I said before, of Maslow's hierarchy. It's our psychological needs. And belonging actually is lower level than the next need, which is esteem. And esteem is about value, respect, achievement. And so when you put these two together, that's what we think, these two psychological needs together, that's how we define belonging. It's the ability for human beings, workers, to feel a sense of inclusion, to feel that they're included. That's the love and belonging. I'm part of a social group, companionship, peership, things like that. And I'm also valued. Because if not, I'm sitting at it. I've been invited in, I'm sitting at a table, but my ideas, my opinions, those aren't, if they're not valued, respected, if they're not asked for, if they're not honored, considered, those things, that gets in the way of your belonging, because you start to question, why am I here? And if
Yes.
you take this to like literally an anthropological view, human beings for hundreds of thousands of years have organized themselves into groups,
Yes.
right? And we learned really early that we were safer when we're in groups. So
Yes.
we wanted to be included. Just let me in.
Hmm.
But then what happened is as tribes and communities got more sophisticated, you also had to serve value. And serving value is two things. One, you have to have contributions inside the group that
It's the
are valued.
contribution, isn't it? Yes.
Not only that, you also have to value the norms, the values, the reasons why, the purpose of those groups. If you don't, if you're an activist or you are trying to change the values, change the norms, that can create friction, and or you just don't even care and you act one way. So we know what that is. Netflix, for instance, in their culture deck that they released, one of the first culture decks ever, they had a persona inside their company they called the brilliant jerk. Brilliant. They meet their numbers, they do the work, they're horrible to work with.
Right.
See, this is also value. So you have to be able to fit within the culture. And if not, if you aren't a valued member of the group, normally what we've learned is you're shunned, you're kicked out, you're put on a PIP, a performance and improvement plan,
Oh,
and
yep.
or you're exited, right? So the fact of the matter is that's what we're after. We're after behaviors and systems and practices that actually allow everyone in the company, not just some, everyone, to feel a sense of inclusion and value. I know that was a long answer, but I wanted to get around to how that all works.
No, no, no.
We look
It
at
was
that.
beautiful, Kevin. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when we did our preparation call. You said one of the classic areas where people don't feel belonging is in mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Because what happens is that the people are acquired,
Yeah.
and maybe the founder disappears or something like that, and all of a sudden they're awash in this new culture and it's like, well, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I didn't get what the people at the top who did sign up for it got.
Yes.
If that makes sense. I always make executives really happy because I'm usually, that's kind of the spirit of the way I approach conversation, is very direct. I figure we're consultants, so you need to hear our perspective, but yes. So in our work, the belonging journey, one of the first moments of impact, as designers, especially experienced designers, we think in terms of journeys that people go on.
Yeah.
And so we think of the work journey as a daily journey. It can be weekly, it can be monthly, it can just be, what it is. But you will always in your belonging journeys come back to the first moment of impact, which is invitation.
Right.
And you are not invited once to a company. You are, during the recruitment process, obviously that's the ultimate invitation. Like, please come be at the table, right? So come be at our table. And hopefully you've proved to them that you could be of value while sitting at the table. But you come in, the way in which they invite you, we know as humans when we feel invited and when we don't. The next moment of impact is welcomed. So like, not only do you feel welcomed, hey, come to my home, come into my, my culture, but how do I welcome you? So in acquisition, these two moments of impact are severely impacted for most employees. They don't feel a sense of invitation. It's something that's been shoved on them. And welcomed is many times at a distance,
Yeah.
And so what we do is we come in as designers and start to really, all of our work is founded in empathy, which is another reason why we're, I feel, standing out in this field of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, is that we are naturally designers. And so we come in to solve problems. We just apply them to the behaviors and the systems and practice challenges of the organization. And for acquisitions, many times they don't pull off the Band-Aid. They allow them to keep up their logo. They allow them to continue calling themselves. It's like, no, you actually are us. And you need to get them into the systems and practices as quickly as possible and get them onboarded into the experience. And some of the clients I'm working with are like, can we rethink the invitation? Like maybe we can change that moment. And so, we think about how offers are provided, as you come as a acquired employee, like what is the act of getting an offer from that company? And what is that conversation? So that in that conversation, it's very dignified. It's definitely, the employee feels a sense of dignity, but also like, wow, they really do want me to be here. They're making it worth my while. And it's these little gestures over time, especially in these two areas, that really cement a belonging bond to the people that you're working with. I would also say that invited and welcomed happens every day. Every day you go to a meeting. Every day you might be assigned a new project or project team. You may be promoted. Like these are everyday occurrences in work. How you are invited and welcomed as you climb the ladder or work the lattice or whatever you call that, as you join a project. If I was a project lead, I'm thinking about how I invite and welcome all of my project members, So belonging isn't just like this one thing and you handle invitation and welcoming and onboarding and recruitment. It happens every day. And you have to actively think about as humans inside the organization, how you're doing that for each other.
So Andrew Slesser said, well, everyone can and should be part of if any company's continual improvement. We have it hardwired in our minds. We look for approval from upper management to speak up without fear of being talked down.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah. This is psychological safety. There is a contract between employee employer. Sometimes it literally is a contract, but there's an unwritten social contract. You're here to perform. We in the belonging journey, we call this engaged and contributing. So there are lots of moments where I know I'm actively contributing, hopefully value to the culture, but they're in the contract. It's like, but I don't do this for free. So pay me a fair wage, pay me an equitable wage. It doesn't matter my gender. It doesn't matter my orientation, my creed. It doesn't matter even that, like, pay me what people who do these things do, like be fair, right? Help me learn, help me grow, help me advance my career, give me new opportunities, especially if I'm performing. So there is this social contract back and forth, but in the end, the power does rest with the company, right? And so we do go into it wanting the approval of upper management, but I personally cannot work for upper management that doesn't want to hear my ideas, that doesn't want to hear my opinions, especially if they're contrary. I believe the best leaders want contrary opinions. That's why they want diverse people around their table so that they have difference. That's how we define diversity. It is the presence of difference. And the reason they want that is that all of those people have their own life experience based on their own visible and invisible diversity, and that they have value to add because of their life experience. And so I think the right leaders many times are like, I need to actually hire people that are smarter than me. And because they're smarter than me in many aspects, why I hire them to do what they do, they should challenge me. They should tell me what they are. And even though if I have the D, I should consider all of those things as I take the D and make it, So that's the kind of leader I'm looking for.
Ever since Adam and I set up the company, we've always said to people, we don't have all the answers.
No.
And a lot of people do suddenly expect, or leadership in the past was there was all these answers and they kind of got passed down.
Yeah.
And we kind of then, did what we needed to do. But, in any organization, and I've seen it where we've run brainstorming sessions where you take the people that are actually on the front line. They're the people that know and talking to the customers.
Yes.
And get them to come up with the answers and say, so what's the strategy? They come up with a strategy. And because they come up with a strategy and they've been empowered, they feel part of it and then they go and execute it.
Yes. So this is human-centered design in action. We say that human-centered design is DEIB in action. It is because why? Empathy. The act that you look at someone and talk with them and understand their needs and their challenges and understand what they're thinking and feeling, what they're saying and doing and why they're doing that, the act of empathy changes lives. It changes workplaces. You then, from empathy, define needs. So you actually define real problems that you then ideate and prototype solutions for. But how we work, we talk as consultants that we actually want to work ourselves out of work. Our purpose is to ignite curiosity and to give tools and coaching. That's what we do. Every time someone comes to us to say, help us solve this problem, I'm like, you need me to run a process and
Yeah.
inspire your people. But in the end, you have everything you need internally, likely
Solve the problem.
to solve every problem. I'm just here to inspire you, to ignite your curiosity, to give you a process, to give you best practice work. I'll even jump in with you. But in that process, you co-create. So that's what you're talking about, co-creating with your people, allowing them to do the work with you, and solve the problems for you. That's leadership.
Andrew made another comment about absolutely, Kevin, that they want us to bring the answers and sort out the problems before they hear about it. I mean, there is that saying is, don't give me problems, give me solutions.
Yeah.
And while that's a fairly harsh thing to say, at the end of the day, I'm happy that people come to me and say, I don't agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because so I say, explain this a lot. Rob knows this because Rob's in my team, and he's an introvert. And what happens at meetings in the companies that he's worked at is that you get this meeting and all the extroverts get together and they get in a huddle and they come up with a solution. And then they go, right, that's a solution. We all agree. And then Rob says, because no one asked him his opinion because he's an introvert, so he wasn't part of that. He says, yeah, but what about this? And everyone goes, why didn't you say that as part of the discussion? Because he comes up with this thing that nobody's thought about. And what happens is that I noticed this the first time that it was in a meeting, and the second time you get all the introverts together and and as they get closer to an agreement, you say to Rob, what do you think? And he goes, and immediately the discussion goes, because he's come up with something you never ever thought of. Mm-hmm. And immediately we go off in a different direction. You go, Rob, what do you think? And he basically, and it's just an amazing thing to watch, to see how his thinking is, because he's an introvert, he won't join the discussion. He just sits there completely quiet.
Yes.
And it's just it's just so beautiful bringing him in. Anyway, we've got a comment here from Carla. I definitely agree. Contrary opinion do not matter if you are in the education. Sad reality from my institution. I've heard that from other people. I've got someone coming up that I'm interviewing who talks about toxic environments, and she was in higher education.
Yeah, toxic environments are a hard one. They're toxic because of behaviors, likely, and rituals and ceremonies, systems and practices that are being reinforced by leadership. But there are ways to detoxify them over time.
So Kevin, I have one comment, but it's a kind of a like a lead. So I'm holding back on it.
Okay.
But first, so remind people where they can get hold of you.
So you can check me out on LinkedIn. Just go look for Kevin Finke, Finke. You'll see me there. And then also go to my design company's website, experiencewillow.com. You can contact me there, ask me questions, things like that.
Right. So I don't know who this is from because it's come through as LinkedIn user, which usually means I'm not connected. They're not in my network.
Okay.
But basically, they're asking you, does Willow help Fortune 500 companies infuse culture in their long-running established brand stories? How does a well-known brand that has been around forever join a conversation which may be new territory for them?
Yeah. So when that chief people officer asked me, to take on a project, what she was really asking me was, Kevin, would do some employer branding work for us. Employer branding work has exploded in the last decade. And what companies have finally realized, and especially Fortune 500 companies, is that they are not only in a war for customers, they are also in a war for talent. And it matters what people think about you as an employer. That's your employer brand. I believe the most beautiful creative today from companies is when everyday employees who are doing the work and their customers tell their stories for you. Any company can do that. It doesn't matter how big you are. You don't have to be a Fortune 5, but you'll see. Just watch advertising, watch the videos that are running on social sites and things like that. Are they using their employees to tell their story?
The only unique selling point that any company has today is their employees.
Yes. And Edelman, the trust barometer.
Mm.
Trust is declining in every major human institution. The only
Yes.
one that's holding its ground is business. But in 2021, the most trusted voice inside business today are employees, not leaders.
So if you
Because
take, so there's 10,000 marketing technology pieces of software,
yes,
MarTech, right? While we're empowered and we have a phone that can go and actually find these, actually we're not sophisticated to tell that little bit of difference between each of the different products. So what happens is that we generally will buy on price, or we buy because we like Kevin. And Kevin and your employees are your only unique selling point. That's my opinion. I don't have any data back on that. That's my opinion.
I do.
Okay. You need to share it with me.
I definitely will. You should. Hey, by the way, Patrick Lencioni's work that's attached to teaming and all of that, he studies this. He was one of the first bodies of research that came to mind when you talk about it, because he talks about how teaming, how you get your humans to work together, is the only competitive advantage you have today, because parity is so easy many times to
Yes.
get to when it comes to products and services.
So Andrew basically says extroverts will bring simple solutions, while introverts shall think deeply. Yes, they do. And there's a way of dealing with extroverts and introverts. And Andrew also says, amazing talk, Tim and Kevin. Thank you. So
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights.
Of course.
And I really appreciate coming on and sharing your story as well. I mean, I've been really looking forward to this this conversation, and thank you.
Well, it went fast. So if we ever have a part 2, I would be open and welcome to that, and would lovingly accept your invitation.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim.
And thank you for everybody that's been for all the discussion that
Yeah.
we've had as well. And by the way, LinkedIn user, I don't know who you are, but connect with Kevin and say, I was the LinkedIn user on the thing. Can I have a discussion with you?
Yes.
And you might have a lead there, Kevin.
Hey, if that's what happens because of this, this has been fun. So I would love that. So
Absolutely.
please.
Fun and a lead. That's
Yes, fun and a lead.
perfect crime.
What a great Thursday. Thank you